Every season of Survivor is a story, but sometimes that story can be told over the course of multiple seasons. Some players only have 2-part stories, while others can play 4 or even 5 times and have a much longer tail. So why do some players rise and fall and never recover, while others can fall and still get back up and succeed? Well, today we're going to witness and experience the fall, destruction, and redemption of Jerri Manthey, who first played in Survivor's second season, the Australian Outback.
42 days, 16 people, 1 survivor.
Jerri Manthey, a 29-year-old aspiring actress from Los Angeles, California, was a castaway in Survivor's second season, Survivor: The Australian Outback. This season starts off with a bang. Both tribes are in Australia, and the show now has a big budget, unlike in Borneo. Cameramen are everywhere, and these players all saw Borneo, the birth of alliances, and how America responded to Richard Hatch winning, and they ripped him to shreds at the same time for his strategy and personality. Keep this in mind because it will affect a lot of how these players treat each other and talk to the camera, except Jerri. Right away, we see she is on the Ogakor tribe, and both them and Kucha need to grab their survival supplies and hike a long ways to their camp. No nice beach or island here. This is the Outback. Ogakor does get to their camp first, and the first thing we directly hear from Jerri is,
when we got to our camp, I was considering at that point anything and everything anybody was doing or saying as a strategic move.
A bit extreme, but she is on the right track. Everything is a game move, whether it's intentional or unintentional. But not moments later, her strong personality and opinions get in the way of making a good first impression with the other players.
The tension between Keith and I think him and I kind of rubbed each other the wrong way. Keith and I didn't start off on a very good foot just because of some of the condescending remarks he made to me, and he might very well not even be aware that he does it, but I'm not the kind of person to just let it slide off my back.
We then see them all try to make a fire with no success, as Jerri does play her bongo drums that she brought as her luxury item as a rhythm for the fire making while she laughs. And by the way, she laughs a lot. Nervous or genuine depends on the situation, but she does this constantly, and I'm not going to keep track of every time she does it, just know she's doing it a lot. But at the immunity challenge, Ogakor wins, and that is all for the premiere. The first impression the show is giving us about Jerri is how she is a central figure to her tribe, and so far hasn't made any good relationships that we have seen. But she claims to be strategically thinking about this game right away, which is something we don't see from too many other players this season. We shall see if she gets into a good alliance and right the ship on her relationship with Keith. But for now, the patrons get to vote every single month on what story video I should make from seasons we have previously covered. If you want to pick what story videos I make and watch them all up to 6 months early, then consider joining them on Patreon. It is a completely optional way to support the channel that keeps us free from sponsors and advertisers. Now with that, Episode 2 starts off with everyone having fun and bonding together at the quote-unquote family whirlpool, as Marilyn calls it. Everyone except for Kel, that is. He is off fishing all by himself, and he's by himself a lot. But apparently, despite how much time he spends dedicated to this essential skill to get them food, Jerri says,
He's not a fisherman, obviously. Should keep his day job.
A bit harsh. It's not like she's caught anything, but okay. We then see Amber and Tina say, wow, despite Keith being a professional chef, he sucks at making rice. Keep in mind, Amber and Tina say this first, but Jerri agrees and decides to take matters into her own hands quite literally, as she makes tortillas with the flour they have, and despite recognizing that Keith feels threatened by this since he is literally a professional chef and he prides himself on that, she goes, I want good food, so who cares? But then something strange happens, something that we never see any definitive proof for, so either there is no footage of it, or the show wants to make the accuser look like a liar. You decide.
I am very disappointed at what happened 5 minutes ago. Jerri reported to the rest of us that she had seen Cal chewing a brown substance, what she thought was beef jerky.
Jerri blatantly said that she saw something look just like beef jerky go into his mouth, and I believe her, actually.
I saw him chewing, but you saw
I saw him chewing too.
I mean, to have your own team member possibly be holding food behind you and surviving on their own little private stash while the rest of us are starving, basically, is not a good way to start off on the right foot with a bunch of strangers.
He had beef jerky. I'd kill him dead.
Look, while I was going up there looking for bait for fishing, you guys were talking about that you thought I was eating beef jerky during that. What I had was a blade of grass and I smushed it up into my jaw and I was chewing on that. I was just chewing grass.
Well, in order to put grass in your mouth, you have to go get grass first. And I don't think you get grass out of your pocket.
It looks like normal grass, okay? It just looks like a normal blade of grass. I just find it really comical that you would think I would do that.
I think it's pretty comical.
I've got 3 blades out here. The girls can use 1 blade, the guys can use the other blade. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
He suddenly, at that point, offered his razor. And I think that that's the hugest sign of guilt, is to give to the people who have just accused you of something that is very serious.
Pretty good words to tell to this.
That's what I think Marilyn was kind of upset at us. Yeah.
Now, the show never confirms or denies Kel with beef jerky publicly either, and it won't confirm or deny it within this season. So Jerri is left hanging. She's just hanging out to dry. At the immunity challenge, Tina loses it for them, and back at camp, talks arise of who should go first. Colby says Jerri is an option since many see her as stubborn and unforgiving. Not good traits, I would say. But at Tribal Council, while looking like a clone of Jeff Probst with the clothes, Kel is voted out 7-1 for basically being all by himself.
Kel, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 3 sees Ogakor winning reward, and back at camp, Jerri catches the fish and says, wow, this is easy. Kel must have really sucked to not be able to catch anything. We then briefly hear Marilyn's thoughts on the tribe and who she likes and who she doesn't like, with Jerri being the sole person that falls into the doesn't like category. But that isn't the case for Colby, as him and Jerri are really hitting it off, and I think some Marvin Gaye music here would be quite appropriate.
Do you like crunchy peanut butter or creamy?
Crunchy.
Gotta have crunchy.
Yeah. There could be something going on between Jerri and Colby. I mean, from the very first day, she told me how cute she thought he was. And at first she didn't think that he liked her. And I was like, Jerri, it's only the second day. I'd really like it if Colby and I got together. He's exactly my type. Plus he's a cowboy, and I'm such a sucker for cowboys.
Oh, Jerri. Jerri and I are getting along great. Every day we have more fun flirting with each other and seeing how far we can kind of push it.
I must say, the future irony of Amber saying not to worry about whether a guy likes you on day 1 is just, it's too perfect. We then see day turn to night, and once again, the Marvin Gaye music should be on here because Jerri is massaging the Colbster, that's what he calls himself. We then get back-to-back confessionals, first with Colby, who says it is possible Jerri could be playing him and trying to deceive him, followed by Jerri saying, if need be, I am voting Colby out. Ogakor goes on to lose immunity again, and Jerri says, I am good with Mitchell, Amber, Colby, and Tina on my side. But then at Tribal Council, when Jeff asks, who is Jerri close with?
In my ability to bond with Amber and Mitchell and Colby in particular.
Huh, why didn't she mention Tina there? Or give the diplomatic answer of being good with everyone? The more Jerri speaks, the more I think she may be talking before fully thinking through what she's going to say and the possible repercussions. But in the meantime, Marilyn is voted off 5-1.
Mad Dog, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 4 starts off fairly predictably with Tina being annoyed at Jerri. I think a lot more of this has to do with Jerri leaving Tina out to dry at Tribal Council when mentioning who she is close with, but that could just be me reading into things. We get a very, very one-sided narrative of how Tina and Keith woke up, prepared to take the canoe out, but then Jerri and Mitchell woke up and took it out before they could. It seems like a very simple misunderstanding with a harsh focus on making Jerri look bad instead of the actual truth, which is that no one is clearly communicating with anyone else. Tina then says, the young people are really bonding together, and I don't fall into the young people category. So I need to get with Keith and flip one of the young people to my side to even have a chance, ideally 2 people, or I'm gonna be gone next. So Tina goes full villain in a way that leaves her unscathed.
And you gotta realize that you're nothing to Jerri. She said, I'm in it to win. And, you know, she's gonna do whatever it takes to win. Yeah. And it's like she has to have her way. Yeah. And I am so over it, I just can't hardly stand it. I'm sorry, she's the most bossy, domineering person I've ever met.
My thought was if I could get Colby, that would be 2 of us. And then maybe Colby could talk to Amber. And that would be the only chance that I would have to make it.
Wow, how utterly manipulative, which makes for a great strategic move, but does show Tina to be a hypocrite. We then see Colby have enough of the fighting between these two ladies, and he sits in the water and talks to his buddy Keith, who says Jerri is not good enough for Colby, which puts a smile on the Colbster's face. What a great manipulative move by Keith too. This is terrible for Jerri though. Jerri then senses Colby's kind of drifting away from her and is becoming more and more distant. So she decides to have a talk with him and do her best to swing him back to her.
I'm not saying I'm holding out on making a deal with you to see how this thing plays out. I'm saying there's no sense in even making a deal, because if we go into the merge undermanned, it's all for naught, you know?
Don't worry about it. It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here. And I like hanging out with you, so it just makes sense to me to approach you with it.
Make you a deal. It's me, you, and Amber. Do it again.
Jerri proudly wears a name tag that says Puppet Master on it. She loves having Amber in her hip pocket and Mitchell in the same place. I mean, I simply agreed to go along with him just because I thought it could get me down the road a little better.
Oh man, the story here is laying it on thick. Is Jerri the devil? Not even close. Does the show want you to think she is? Absolutely. The show is being as manipulative as Tina was earlier. We see Colby carrying her across the river, and at the immunity challenge, they lose again. That's 3 immunity losses in a row. They need a massive turnaround before the merge. Otherwise, Cooch is just going to pick them off one after another. There is a struggle for Colby's vote, as Keith and Tina want him badly on their side, and Jerri and Amber and Mitchell think they already have him in the bag. So at Tribal Council,
first vote. Keith. 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 Mitchell. Mitchell. We have a tie. In the Survivor rules, in a deadlock, you go to votes cast in previous tribal councils. How many votes have you had cast against you, Keith?
None.
Mitchell?
1.
1. 1 vote is the difference. In a long vote, Mitchell, the tribe has spoken.
wow, Colby flipped. While not unexpected for us as an audience, this is a big surprise for Jerri, who thought they were still good. In episode 5, she talks to him about aligning with her again, and he lies and plays the "I'm only voting for the tribe, whatever makes the tribe stronger" shtick, instead of being honest about the fact that, yeah, he's aligned with Tina and Keith now. If you don't believe me yet about the show wanting you to think that Jerri is dumb and a villain while she isn't dumb at all, and not even that villainous, we get a 2-minute long scene where Keith and Jerri have a disagreement about whether to bury dead fish or just drop them back in the river. Is this worth 2 minutes of a 40-minute episode? I don't think so, as it essentially comes down to Jerri saying, let's bury it so we don't get any poisonous smells from the fish, which, by the way, we're downwind of, and Keith says, let's just dump them in the ocean and let the other fish eat them. Now, a quick Google search says that Jerri is right, and what Keith is proposing would poison the food supply in the river, but the show 100% takes Keith's side on this. It's a bit insane. But other than that, this is a fairly quiet episode for Jerri as her tribe wins immunity. So in episode 6, we see Amber craving food, and Jerri says, I am also craving food. But as it turns out, that means something very different for her.
I just at some point have to get my hands on some chocolate. I fear I might go psycho. And I'm not kidding.
I had a discussion with Colby regarding chocolate and how chocolate releases the same endorphins that sex does. And since none of us are having sex, that's probably why we keep reverting to the chocolate discussions.
I'm going to bathe myself in chocolate.
That's like my ultimate fantasy right now. Right now, I can actually, in my wildest fantasy, picture pouring hot chocolate all over some hot dude's bod and having sex while licking it off at the same time.
She's using her thoughts of chocolate to substitute for her thoughts of sex. I may be a lot of things, but I ain't no Hershey bar.
So far, there have been 3 fights between Keith and Jerri over food. Essentially, it's all boiled down to Keith being unskilled and Jerri being incapable of being nice about helping the food be better. But it now has become so petty that they are squabbling over fried green tomatoes.
It just would help if you weren't quite so pessimistic about ideas that other people have other than your own.
Pessimistic. I'm not picking on you about your tomatoes.
You already did on the way here. You said, I don't think that can be done.
That's good. Well, then this will be good. We got fried green tomatoes. Keith is a chef, man. You don't have to insult the guy by telling him he doesn't know what he's talking about. I think it's disrespectful and rude, and that's what Jerri loves to do because she knows it's going to ruffle his feathers.
You gotta leave it in there.
Stop it! Both of you! Or you're going to timeout! Jerri makes me feel uncomfortable. You know, you're always walking on eggshells around her. And it's just no fun living in that type of situation.
At the reward challenge, the entire tribe is blindfolded and they must follow Jerri's direction in order to succeed. And despite being inches, and I do mean inches away from winning, they fail. And I gotta say, it is hard to tell if this is due to bad direction on Jerri's part or Amber's inability to listen well, because they had this. They were in the lead and they blew it at the last second. Either way, the Kolbster is mad.
Kucha! You all have no idea how close that was.
Yes!
Thank you. I needed that.
But all of this is small potatoes next to a big event in this episode that will shape Survivor forever and set in stone that, yeah, this is real and the show is not holding these players' hands, as Mike Skupin on the Kucha tribe falls into the fire and burns the skin off of his hands. It is a long, scary scene that goes down as a watermark moment for the show. However, Ogakor is just told that an accident happened with no details attached. Strange. We move on to episode 7, where we see a late night strategy talk over at Kucha, who say that, yeah, our first 2 targets, Colby and then Jerri.
If I had to vote right now, I'd vote Colby and I'd vote Jerri next.
It's got to be Jerri and Colby first.
Both tribes then get a note saying the merge is coming soon, and Ogakor decides that we need to stay mum on who has received votes in the past in case of a tie, and here's why. As we saw earlier, a tie comes down to past votes. Jerri has 2 past votes, and Keith has 5. So those 2 do not need to be in the crossfire for Kucha. Jerri says, I will do my best not to speak ill of my arch nemesis Keith in front of them, for strategic purposes, of course. But then it happens. With both tribes down to 5 players each, they merge.
Here's a toast to your efforts and the second half of the game.
Open it.
The merge feast is going oh so well. That is until Jeff Varner, notorious pot stirrer from the Kucha tribe, says he noticed Colby and Jerri going off talking strategy while pointing out who on Kucha they wanted out. Is this true? I have no idea, since the show never shows this happening and no confessional is ever given to counter it. But anyways, the new merge tribe, Barramundi, are forced to build a new camp at a new location. That's a lot of new. There's a small debate whether to build it higher up under the trees or down below on the soft, dry riverbed. Jerri says,
I think on the beach right there in the shade.
Let's go down there and check it out.
All right, let's look.
My idea was to originally build the hut up in the trees where you got some good anchors. Then the girls said they would like to stay down on the sand because it sleeps better.
Despite Roger saying the women all wanted it down below, we are only shown Jerri saying this. Curious. At the immunity challenge, either Jerri or Keith needs to win in order to keep them safe against a possible tie. While I don't understand logically, I do understand emotionally this next moment when Jeff says, hey, if you drop, I'll give you ice cream and chocolate, and Jerri definitely drops right away. Run, Colby, run! However, Tina drops and lets Keith take immunity, which is the second best option for their tribe and their alliance. With an immunity challenge that lasted nearly 11 hours, they head off to tribal council and there they vote. And
first vote, Colby. Jeff. Colby. Jeff. Colby. Jeff. Colby. Jeff. One for Jeff. That's 5. Look at that. One for Colby. Colby, how many votes have you had cast against you?
0.
0. Jeff.
1 that I know of.
Enough. Jeff, the tribe has spoken.
The Ogakor tribe are now in the clear. With a 5-4 lead heading into episode 8, this season could play out very predictably. We shall see about that. Jerri needs to be strongly considering who she wants to sit next to in the final 2. Who is someone the jury is going to like less than herself? We then see Tina say that this season, unlike in Borneo, she wants to see the good guys get to the end and win. It doesn't matter which tribe they're from, which by the way is a bunch of crap, but that's for her video. You can watch Tina's video if you really want to get the logistics of what she's doing here, because she's obviously placing herself in that good guys camp despite being one of the best players here because she's so manipulative, but like in a good way. I'm respecting her. We then immediately cut to Jerri hammering with some weird ominous music right after Tina says the good guy bit, and Jerri says, I have a weird feeling right now. We then cut back to Tina saying all season Jerri has been a real controlling overlord when it comes to how the rice is cooked.
The rice has to be cooked to Jerry's specifications. It has to be stirred a certain number of times, the lid has to stay on, it has to be perfect, or you catch it.
Alicia and I were on the side of the fire, and Jerri and Amber were sitting on the log just watching every move we made. Every time I would take a lid off, I could see them, tensing up, like, why is she taking the lid off? Why is she stirring now? Alicia and I were getting more tense, trying to make it. We were testing the rice. We always tested to make sure it's done, and Jerri's over on her log. It's mushy, she says.
I try to stay away from cooking so I don't have to be judged.
I want to point out that scene, while I did shorten it, lasts for 3 whole minutes. 3 minutes out of a 40-minute episode. They really take their time to paint Jerri as the villain. Any chance they get. Jerri's bad. Don't think for yourself, let the show tell you. Jerri's bad. Did you know she's bad? Because I didn't know she was bad, but well, Jerri's really bad. No one else is a villain, only Jerri. It is so painfully obvious to everyone else that Elizabeth says this rift between Tina and Jerri can easily be taken advantage of for Cooch's benefit. However, Jerri wins the individual reward challenge and takes Amber with her, and with that comes a sigh of relief from everyone else as they are jealous of the reward, but like that they get time without Jerri.
It was kind of funny because everyone else kind of felt like we won the reward. Everyone kind of vented about how they feel about Jerri, and it was an eye-opener to some people. I knew it.
Let's see, I've cooked for 2 presidents, I've cooked for all kinds
of
people.
Have you really?
And I've never, ever been stressed, other than these last so many days.
Isn't that weird?
Never been stressed.
I can't believe that.
Over cooking rice.
Over rice.
Is Jerri getting voted out this episode? Because as I said earlier, almost every minute not dedicated to a challenge seems to be dedicated to dumping on Jerri. Did you know Jerri's bad? Heck, when Jerri comes back from reward, she tries to talk some strategy with Colby, aka Mr. Texas, aka the morally right man, aka the guy people will name their children after when the season airs, and he lies to her, but it's justified in his eyes.
Even leading Keith and Tina to believe that you want the 3 of them to be the final 3?
Keith and Tina?
Yeah.
And myself?
Have you ever thought maybe...
Well, they're fully convinced that's what's going to happen.
Oh, they are?
I mean, they've thought that
for a while
before the merge, yeah.
So the inevitable came. I was painted into a corner and had to lie to her to convince her that there wasn't anything going wrong. And I just said, look, Jerri, Keith owes me one on this. He and Tina think that the 3 of us are going in to the finals, which is the truth, but Jerri thinks it's just a ploy. I didn't like the fact that I had to lie, but because I was lying to Jerri, I didn't lose sleep over it.
So at Tribal Council, I genuinely don't know what to expect as everyone goes to vote, and...
First vote. Jerri. Jerri. Very muscular.
Who said that?
Alicia. Jerri. Jerri. Alicia. 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 Alicia, you need to bring me your torch. Alicia, tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
We move on to episode 10, since episode 9 is just a recap that has no bearing on the story being told, and they all get a note that says, pick partners for the reward challenge, and Elizabeth says, let's draw out of a hat, and Jerri says, no.
You don't want to put a little pet? No. I think I should pick.
Who would you pick?
I'd pick Colby. Well, duh. Who wouldn't?
Well, the whole thing is, when did this game start being fair?
No, but I think it is about teammanship. So how are we going to do it, Colby?
I've got all the guys' names written on a piece of paper.
The girls pick.
Oh, look at them go.
Colby.
There we go.
That's funny.
Oh, there we go. That's the best map. Ready to rock?
Okay, I will hand it to the show. This was 100% on Jerri. Her and Colby do win, so obviously a good call on wanting him as her partner, and they get to fly to the Great Barrier Reef. Colby right at the gate says, hey, on this reward we're having no strategy talk, and Jerri doesn't care. She's with the Colbster. Add some chocolate and things are gonna escalate for her. She even says that winning back-to-back reward challenges has to be creating jealousy with the others, but who gives a rip what they think. While on said reward, this means a lot more to Jerri than it does to Colby.
Here we are in the middle of the Great Barrier Reef. It was just too close to paradise. The setting, it was very, very romantic on top of everything else. I even looked at him at one point and I was like, this is one hell of a first date, Colby.
I couldn't have come out here with a better person than Colby. We're having a great time. We're getting to know each other outside of the game and outside of that environment. This is basically the perfect honeymoon without the sex.
Jerri was quite giddy on our little getaway. She made a comment to me about it being a honeymoon without the sex, and it couldn't be farther from the truth for me. I mean, we certainly didn't sit around and high five and say, man, we finally get our time alone together. You know, it's not what I was looking for. I was just looking for some downtime away from the game, and that's what I got.
Upon returning back from the reef, Colby brings everyone some illegal Barrier Reef gifts. I say illegal because it is illegal to take any part of the reef away from it with you, but to be fair, he has no idea about this. I'm not counting it against him. Jerri's like, crap. I think Colby might be more liked than me right now by the others.
Colby's little shell maneuver was most definitely strategy. For me, in a perfect world, it'll be me and him sitting up there in front of the jury. I find him and myself to be the most even on the playing field, more than anybody else here. And so now, because of that little maneuver, I'm thinking he's got one up on me for sure.
She only thinks this now? This just goes to show how out of touch she is with how the other players view her. We then hear Nick of the original Kucha tribe say, I need to win immunity or it's my head tonight. And at the immunity challenge, he pulls it off. So who's next? Jerri says Elizabeth is the next in line from the Kucha tribe. So at Tribal Council,
first vote, Elizabeth. Jerri. 2 votes Elizabeth, 2 votes Jerri. 3 votes Jerri. 4 votes Jerri. 5 votes Jerri. That's enough.
Checkmate, you guys got me.
Jerri, tribe has spoken.
wait, what? Hold on, let's rewind. At what point did Ogakor decide to foolishly flip on themselves here at this point in the game and leave the door open for Amber just to flip over to the Kucha side and ruin their entire game? This was the wrong point in time to vote out Jerri. Someone had to be the dissenting voice on this, right? Well, right before Tribal, this conversation takes place.
So there is one other alternative. So we can eliminate Jerri. I mean, we are, but we're stuck with it for today. Well, none of us wanted that. None of us. I'm sorry, but we're talking about a lot of money. No, I understand that.
Keith, listen to what you just said. Why would we allow that possibility to even come to fruition when we've got an opportunity right now to keep things going exactly the way they are, and then get rid of Jerri as soon as we can? And boy, do I want to. I mean, I hadn't put up with her all day yesterday. I can't imagine getting rid of Elizabeth over her, but
I know, and
it's just,
my gut tells me
it's the right move.
Jerri was an amazing character this season, and frankly, her vote off signifies a straight decline in this season once she is gone. She was painted as this villain, but that's only because everyone else had this, high and mighty moral code in response to what they saw people do when they saw Richard Hatch win Borneo. So they didn't want to be viewed like Richard Hatch, they wanted to be viewed like Rudy. Oh, a mighty hero. Jerri is the original villainess of Survivor. So of course, when Survivor does its first ever All-Star season, they had to invite her back. Oh, and Colby is along for the ride.
39 days, 18 All-Stars, 1 Survivor.
What is important to note about Survivor All-Stars that is different from all previous seasons of the show is how the tribes are separated. For the first time ever, there are 3 tribes of 6. The Mogo Mogo and Saboga tribes each have 2 former winners, and Shapira has none. The Saboga tribe consists of Jerri, Ethan, Tina, Rupert, Jenna Lewis, and Rudy. And this tribe is probably the most even out of how all the tribes are assembled. Unlike in past seasons, there is no marooning by Jeff to begin. The players get dropped off at their beach with a machete and a map to their water well, and that's it. Ethan Zahn immediately assesses his tribe and he likes the makeup of it, even calling Jerri the hot chick.
First impression of the group, I'm happy with the group. You know, you got the mom, the nice guy, the military guy, the hot chick.
Our first time hearing from Jerri is how she doesn't like who is on the tribe as much as Ethan. For one, Tina is there, and as you may remember from the Australian Outback, Tina is a big reason of why Jerri went home. However, Jerri has an ace up her sleeve. This time, she's going to implement a new strategy, a new way of thinking, a new way to approach the game, which she explains as,
I did get put on a team with a woman who doesn't like me. Tina's a huge concern of mine. She didn't like me in Australia, and I don't know necessarily if she likes me now. But I'm gonna try this new strategy of mine, and that's just to keep my damn mouth shut.
Later on, the tribes finally meet for the first time and everyone finds out who they're playing against. While Rupert steals most of the spotlight for the Saboga tribe since everyone is enamored with him, there is a fun little editing moment here between Jerri and Colby. Her tribe loses immunity, and Jerri should be safe because Jenna Lewis has already made it public that past winners are her enemies. They need to go immediately. Nobody wants a winner to win again. They've already had the chance and they need to get out of here. Now, in order to do this, Jenna and Jerri need Rupert and Rudy on their side to vote out either Ethan or Tina. Preferably Tina from Jerri's perspective.
Tonight, I think it's important we take out the 2 winners first. I don't want to see them get another $1 million. I'd just rather get rid of them at the beginning.
And I hate to say it,
It's the fun of it.
it's gonna feel great. Good, because they don't know what it's like. No.
However, Rupert is not 100% on board though and talks to Ethan, who pitches that Jenna and Jerri do not play an honorable game like Ethan does, nor like Rupert does, which is a great move by Ethan to try this, but only helps to paint Jerri in a light that people mostly know her as from her previous game.
You watch Jenna and Jerri from style they played last night. They don't play the way you play.
At Tribal, we get a glimpse of what the weather will be like this season as it is pouring down. Jerri says this is far worse than anything that happened in the Australian Outback weather-wise.
It's bad, Jeff. It's bad. You can live without food, but you cannot live without water, and we are all feeling it right now, and it's scary. It's really scary.
Thankfully for Jerri, she is safe as no one votes for her, and Tina is gone 4-2.
Tina, the tribe has spoken.
So far in this premiere episode, Jerri's first impressions are surprisingly quiet. To be fair, the show is trying to balance 18 players for the first time, and they're all players that we want to hear from. But as of now, the focus isn't on Jerri. She said her new game plan is to remain quiet and fade into the background, and that seems to be working so far. With Tina gone, she really only has one sworn enemy left in the game, Colby. However, her past is already coming back to haunt her, and it will be telling if she is able to overcome that, or if it will become her downfall. Episode 2 begins and that rain does not let up at all. Jerri says once again that this weather is far worse than anything in the Australian Outback, and it was by far the worst night of her entire life.
Last night was the most miserable night of my life. I didn't get a single wink of sleep all night long. I sat upright in the shelter all night, rocking back and forth, trying to stay warm.
At the reward challenge, Saboga wins, but it ultimately doesn't matter as all they have won are some lousy blankets, but Jeff offers them an option. If they would like, they can instead get a pot, a flint, and if they agree to this though, they have to let the other 2 tribes have this as well. Being as this is the superior option by far, Saboga takes the deal.
Give everybody flint.
Oh, we
Back at camp, Saboga is trying to start the fire, and sure enough, Jerri is the one who ends up actually getting it started for them. While she does get her moment in the sun, it all comes crashing down pretty quickly as at the immunity challenge, Saboga loses. Again. But this time, Ethan and Jerri are largely to blame for this, and the tribe is keenly aware of her shortcomings. Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly though, her nor Ethan are being targeted. Instead, Rudy is breaking down physically, and he's already getting injured. While he doesn't complain, he is becoming a liability to the tribe, and even if he were healthy, he's 75 years old and quite a bit slower than everyone else. So at Tribal Council, the tribe makes the smart move and votes him out.
Rudy? The tribe has spoken.
Episode 3 opens up and Saboga is building some tribe unity. They are hard at work and Jerri even helps to build a dinner table. Life is finally getting better for them.
Without being overconfident or cocky, I'm feeling really good about where we're at.
Cute.
They then run into a stroke of luck as, considering they were just building things with no supplies, this reward challenge has them using supplies that the Home Depot has provided them to build the best shelter they can in 24 hours. Whichever tribe makes the best shelter wins. Rupert says, let's try something different. Let's not do what they're expecting, that boring old shelter that is above ground. Everyone knows that, and it's not new, and it wouldn't stand out from the crowd. Instead, let's build an underground log cabin that they will be able to stand up in, and Rupert's quite proud of this idea. Jerri says this seems like a terrible idea, which Rupert disagrees with, but no one publicly backs her up. But she is 1000% correct.
Personally, I don't feel digging into the ground is a good idea. But
none of them are gonna make a structure as creative as ours. They're gonna make huts.
I hear ya.
We're gonna make a log cabin.
Rupert's a complete control freak. He has to have everything his way and he thinks he's the only one who can do it right. But you know what? All we need is rain rushing down the side of that hill right into our shelter and we're screwed.
However, we do hear in confessional that Ethan does agree with her, but he knows his back's against the wall and he doesn't want to start a fight between him and anyone else because he knows that could be the deal breaker for his game.
She had very valid points. You know, I don't want to dig down 3 feet and live under the ground.
Rupert is vehemently against this idea Jerri has of not going underground and gets pretty annoyed at her. She then tells us that he is a control freak, and from everything we saw on Pearl Islands, and even now, considering that she just now is the first person to ever really say this about Rupert, it seems like actually she may be correct if you think back to Pearl Islands and looking at this situation. Jerri's onto something here.
It's gonna take longer to dig 3 feet in the ground.
How do you have any idea? I know what I can do. I'm 40 years old. I've done mine for years.
It gets really dark and the shelter is still not close to being done. Jerri cannot believe how incredibly stupid this idea was, and the fact that they went through with it is even worse. After all, what happens if it rains? Wouldn't that fill up the shelter and make it useless? She just can't wrap her head around the stupidity. As it turns out, when the inspector comes to judge each tribe's camp, he agrees this tribe is the worst, and he says he would not want to live there at all.
You would not want to live here.
Oh, no, man.
Dangerous?
Yeah, this is a water. This it's.
You know what he's saying?
And they get last place in the challenge because he says, yeah, if it rains, they're gonna drown. They go to the immunity challenge and Jenna Maraska quits the game.
Someone who's very ill at home right now, that's getting worse. I need to pull myself out of the game and be there.
As it turns out, she suspects she needs to be at home with her sick mother, and turns out she's right as her mother passes away not too long after. Since Jenna quits, there is no immunity challenge or tribal council, and we move on to episode 4. Back at camp, it rains hard, which is very common on this season of the show, despite taking place in the same location as the previous season where we didn't see that much rain. But the rain is a lot more frequent here, and it just seemingly doesn't end. And what do you know? The shelter fills up with water, which is Jerri saying just how bad this all really is.
We've been shivering in the rain probably 5 or 6 hours. It's a disaster.
Rupert sobers up and finally gets past his pride and ignorance and realizes, yeah, this shelter was a terrible idea and I am to blame for it.
A stupid shelter that I built was destroyed. Digging into the sand is the dumbest idea I've ever had in my life.
The next day, Saboga bands together and builds a shelter that won't kill them the first time it rains. Jerri begins to feel a bit better as after they build that shelter, the sun comes out, and she's saying though, she now gets it. She can understand how people can go mad because she felt herself get to the brink of that.
Yesterday morning, I about lost it. After that storm, I didn't think I was going to be able to snap out of it. I literally experienced a moment where I realized how people go mad.
At the immunity challenge, each tribe is blindfolded and has to be guided by a caller. After collecting all of their puzzle pieces, they then can remove their blindfolds and build a puzzle. Jerri is the caller for Saboga, and she does a good job at that. But what is key is that she leads the charge on building the puzzle, and they get first place, finally winning immunity.
Saboga, first tribe to win immunity!
No tribal council.
Hello, ladies!
We move on to episode 5, which begins with a twist. For the reward challenge, the tribe that comes in last place will be dissolved and drafted by the 2 other tribes. So as Saboga has done for most of the season, they lose. Rupert and Jenna then get drafted into the Shapera tribe, while Ethan and Jerri get drafted into Mogo Mogo.
Jerri and Colby reunited. Jerri, now a member of Mogo Mogo.
This is good and bad for Jerri. Good because Mogo Mogo, when they were making a decision, they were whispering to each other and said, Ethan is our target, we gotta get him out. So Jerri isn't the target. But bad because Colby is on that tribe and he is Jerri's sworn enemy.
We chose Ethan because we knew if we had him on our tribe, we had control of how long he stays in this game.
But Jerri is loving this change of scenery and even makes sure to publicly express it to her new tribe mates.
Can I just say thank you? I'm very, very happy to be over
Good.
here. I really, really am.
I'm glad
gonna cry.
We're glad to have you.
I wouldn't cry anymore.
My spirits are very high right now. I don't miss Saboga at all. Not even a little.
Mogo Mogo is now on the search for the last key to open their box with rice. Every tribe was given a box with rice in it and they needed 3 keys to open it. Saboga didn't even get close to this, so we didn't talk about it, but here Mogo Mogo just needs 1 more key. As they search and search, Jerri is actually the one who finds it for them. Life is good for Jerri. She isn't public enemy number 1. She loves her new tribe. They have a competent shelter. She just found the key to the rice box, but unfortunately though, Mogo Mogo failed to keep that box dry like they were instructed to, and half of their rice is not edible due to it getting wet.
Unfortunately, when we opened the carton, half the rice was rotten.
And things don't get much better as Mogo Mogo then loses immunity and Colby tells her that they want Hatch gone next, which is still great. I mean, she isn't being targeted.
If Hatch comes to you and asks you, tries to bring you in the loop.
Tell him that I'm telling him about her Ethan.
Yep, because that's what Hatch thinks. Get rid of her.
All right. I was approached by Lex, Colby, and Ethan to vote for Rich. I immediately said, hell yeah, count me in.
But she thinks this may not be the best move for her game as Hatch is a free agent and he isn't a threat to her game at all. She would rather have Colby gone. She tells Hatch Colby's plan and tries to rally the votes to get Colby instead.
I'm trying to convince Kathy that instead of Rich, it's Colby.
But it doesn't work out as Richard is voted out and the winners continue to go home.
Rich, the tribe has spoken.
This move to get out Richard Hatch shows everyone that Lex and Colby are running the show, and that move they just made shows everyone who really holds the power in this tribe. Episode 6 begins and Jerri brings back a classic move of hers, which is talking obsessively about food. This time though, she doesn't beat a drum about it with Amber like she did in the Australian Outback, but instead she is now making a full-fledged grocery list, and while this would be fine if she kept it to herself, she doesn't, and it annoys people.
I need honey roasted extra crunchy peanut butter crunch, marshmallows big and small, bananas, apples, gala apples, milk chocolate chips, peanut butter chips, marshmallow cream, graham crackers with cinnamon, peanut butter.
Jerri and Lex then go to retrieve Tree Mill, and while there she makes an alliance with him and he feels really good about that.
The conversation I had with Jerri was completely sincere. I don't have any reason to feel that it was anything but I am going to do whatever it takes to get me further in the game. And if that means exploiting situations where I have a friend that might trust me, I'll do it.
It's business this time.
At the reward challenge, Sue Hawk blows up big time. For all the details, watch the story of Richard Hatch, but to make a detailed story short, in the last episode, Richard got naked as usual and ran into Sue on purpose, which at first she didn't think much of, but overnight, she mentally collapses and feels violated by Hatch, so she quits the game.
I was violated, humiliated, dehumanized, and totally spent, Jeff. It wasn't sorta, Jeff.
Anyways, Jerri's tribe wins the reward challenge in part thanks to her, and there is no tribal council this episode. So we move on to episode 7 where we see Jerri complaining and yeah, Sheehan and Kathy are simply sick and tired of hearing it.
I know. Jerri is starting to drive me insane.
I couldn't sleep last night on the rack. It was really painful.
Hello, we all slept on the rack last night, and yeah, it was painful, but your voice was the only one bitching about it all night long.
Jerri has not changed one iota from the first time she played this game. Her gameplay hasn't changed, her attitude, the way she treats other people, none of that has changed. But I really let it just roll off my back. And maybe it's because I know Jerri's not going to win this game.
Mogo Mogo loses reward, and back at camp, tensions are rising between Sheehan and Jerri. Colby even says how it may be high time for the two just to duke it out and get it over with. Though to be fair, this seems largely instigated by Sheehan and not Jerri, but it's still a bad look.
I don't want any of the rotten stuff, so.
Okay, well, I don't really care.
And Colby approaches Ethan and says he wants Jerri gone, which Ethan, Jerri's old tribe mate, agrees to do with no hesitation.
We need to negotiate for Jerri.
I love fun much.
He's done that?
I already had mine. He's prepared to write your name down.
However, that alliance with Lex pays off in dividends as he tells Jerri that her wish is finally coming true. The day she's been dreaming about for so long is happening. Him, her, and Sheehan will be voting off Colby next. At Tribal Council, it's a hot one for Jerri. She starts off by saying that her game plan is to simply vote off whoever's the biggest threat to her in this game, which elicits an eye roll from Colby, but is a smart way to play by her.
When I vote for the person I find to be my biggest threat, because that definitely comes into play at a merge. That is something that you have to consider throughout the entire course of the game.
And I disagree with that. We're here because we lost. We can't afford to lose again. It doesn't make sense to start eliminating people that you know in some capacity will help you compete. To me, it just doesn't make sense to start cutting your legs off.
Is this a revenge vote? Hell yeah.
7th person voted out of the tribe.
Colby, tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
Yes, I feel like I'm being evil right now, but boy does it feel good.
At the immunity challenge, Mogo Mogo has to designate someone to be their archer to battle in a one-on-one matchup against Boston Rob. They pick Jerri, and
Wide to the right, that's it. Shapira wins immunity.
she loses immunity for her tribe with her terrible performance. Despite this blunder, people are getting antsy that the merge is coming up next, and Lex says it is now high time to vote out the last remaining winner in the game, Ethan. He doesn't want to bring him to the merge, and he tells Jerri that Ethan's next to go. Lex then does that thing he does in Africa when he talks to someone before voting them out, which almost never works out for him, and tells Ethan, "You're going next." Ethan cannot believe this. How could this happen? How could Lex want him gone instead of Jerri, who Ethan views as having not earned her place in this game?
She's done nothing for this game. She's done nothing for this tribe. She's done nothing for you, and you're rewarding her with it. She does not deserve to be here. She didn't lift a finger over there.
That's why she's not much of a threat.
But she does not deserve to be here. I know that. She does not deserve to be here.
It is all for naught though, as Ethan is voted out and Jerri is safe once again.
Ethan, tribe has spoken. Have fun, play hard, don't let the bed bugs bite.
It is now episode 10 and the tribes do not have a challenge. Instead, Jeff is tasking them with pairing up with someone from the opposite tribe and having a picnic lunch. Everyone suspects that this means the merge will be happening right after the picnic lunch, though the last time Survivor has done this specific thing in Thailand, a fake merge happened instead. In any case, Shan is paired off with Rupert and she still doesn't like Jerri at all. While talking with Rupert, she talks about Jerri's lack of a good work ethic and he agrees, saying he was glad to be able to escape her by going to Shapira. Shapira. Jerri is paired off with Big Tom, and he gives her a pep talk to push her through the rest of this game.
They cannot get you down. We got 18 days, you suck it up, be the stud you are. Put your chest out.
As it turns out though, this is not a merge, and it's not a fake merge. They're not trying to trick anyone here. They're simply swapping tribes. And in a strange turn of events, everyone literally just swaps to the other tribe except Amber. Amber's the only one who stays on Shapira. Otherwise, Mogo Mogo is now Shapira, and Shapira is now Mogo Mogo.
Amber is the only one to change tribes. You stay with Shapira, but your tribe members are all new.
Back at the Shapira camp, they are loaded with rewards, and Jerri takes this opportunity to brush her teeth, and for some reason, the camera guy zooms in way too much on this. However, the different buff color does not change how each tribe performs at challenges, as the new Shapira, Jerri's tribe, loses immunity once again, and when this happens, Boston Rob cuts a deal with Lex to save Amber, who was the obvious next target otherwise.
If you can. Lex, move it out.
Lex tells Kathy that he thinks he can exploit Boston Rob's favor.
It's absolutely horrible for Jerri.
I know it is.
But I do think that I can exploit the favor to our advantage.
And decides to instead cut one of their own, considering him and Kathy's only options are Shan, who is Kathy's right-hand woman. Jerri is the low woman on the totem pole. Lex does that thing again where he tells the person they're going home, and the moment he starts to spiel, she says, "Oh no," and knows immediately what he's going to say next.
You know I love you. And you know I have to be straight with you.
Oh no.
She tries to warn him that saving Amber is a bad idea, and Boston Rob will do anything right now to save her, but as soon as he can, he will stab Lex in the back.
Boston Rob will tell you anything to keep Amber around. It's so obvious.
He will stab you in the back the second he gets a chance. Just please reconsider, Lex. You're giving up somebody who has your back to the very end, and that right there is priceless.
Lex doesn't seem to agree with Jerri though, and at Tribal Council, almost at no fault of her own, she is voted out over Amber.
I just want you guys to know it's been an honor playing this game with you.
Jerri, the tribe has spoken.
Well, she beat Colby, that's something, but other than that, it didn't feel like she really stood a chance once Boston Rob and Lex's outside relationship swayed the strategic decisions being made in the game. Jerri got Boston robbed, and I feel bad for her, as at the reunion show, she is booed off the stage, but was she really that bad here? Or is this more just a response to people still harboring hatred for her from season 2? But almost like Survivor planned it just for her and Colby, they do yet another full returnee season, this time titled Heroes vs. Villains.
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor.
Jerri Manthey, now 38 years old, previously played on Survivor, the Australian Outback, and Survivor All-Stars. Survivor Heroes vs. Villains starts off in an epic fashion as everyone flies in on helicopters, with the heroes all being dumped off at once and the villains getting their individual entrance treatment. We hear from Jerri about her past, and unlike in All-Stars, it seems like the chip is off of her shoulder and she is in a great mood.
I've been labeled things like she-devil in a blue bikini, the Wicked Witch of the West, Man-Eater Manthey, that was my favorite one.
Jeff then kind of puts on a pre-game tribal council, which leads to a lot of fun moments, but notably for Jerri, it has her saying that compared to a lot of players this season, she feels old.
I'm the original villainess of Survivor, and I gotta tell you, I feel like Mother Teresa right now with these people. It's on.
Tom Westman then speaks up and says that those who have not been successful in the past may switch up their strategies this season so nothing will be predictable. This feels like the direction Jerri should go for sure, as she could have never won with how she annoyed people in her first 2 outings.
I also wouldn't assume that anybody would stick with the gameplay that they had. If it didn't work for them a previous season, I would say that they might do a 180 on this thing and spin it around, and I think that could be from either tribe.
As talks progress about who is a hero and who is a villain and why, Jeff just asks everyone straight up who doesn't think they should be considered a villain, and pretty much everyone raises their hands except Jerri, who embraces the moniker and even tells us how she picked her specific hat to represent her choice of tribe.
Except Jerri Manthey, the original Black Widow, still owning her title.
I even got a black hat for this season.
Yeah, is there a little symbolism, but her hat being black and mine being white?
Good versus evil?
It was not a mistake.
Jerri is clearly having fun, and it is hard for us to not have fun with her as her joyful attitude is bursting through. They then immediately have a physical reward challenge that sees a lot of people getting hurt, Colby getting dragged by Coach of all people, and yet the villains still lose. Back at camp, Jerri has moved on from her flirtmance with Colby because now it seems like there may be something between her and the guy who just manhandled Colby. That's right, the Dragon Slayer himself, Coach.
Honestly, I'm very surprised by Coach. There's just something about him, and I don't know what it is yet. I'm definitely gonna make it a point to get to know Coach. I know I'm stealing Coach's mantra here, but I'm going into this like a warrior.
One thing that appeals to me about Jerri is that she's a different kind of girl. That interests me because I'm a different kind of guy.
They seem to like each other, and the other villains in the camp encourage them to pursue this romance and absolutely do not want to stand in the way of what is happening here.
Are you guys playing Cupid?
Yes. You and the Dragon Slayer? Ooh, I see romance blooming between Jerri and Coach.
And Jerri's in total denial, but she totally flirts. And she's, I think, in spite of herself, a little bit in love with the Dragon Slayer.
Jerri and Coach both talk, and while they have both admitted to feeling something for the other person, they know that them looking like a tight duo could be bad for the game since no one wants a repeat of Rob and Amber, especially on the next full-blown all-star season like this one. At the immunity challenge, the villains win, and ultimately no strategic decisions have to be made yet by Jerri. The first impression of Jerri Manthey 3.0 is positive. She looks to be much more relaxed, sure of herself, and seemingly has nothing to prove. This is a mature Jerri. Her flirtations with Coach is reminiscent of her past flirtations with Colby. She does seem to be allied closely with the Dragon Slayer, but otherwise it isn't clear who else she is with, though it does seem fair to say that she is not annoying anyone like she has in the past, so she could easily fly under the radar in this group of big personalities. Episode 2 begins, and so has the rain. Jerri is talking to Coach about people freaking out and complaining last night because of the rain and, well, their bad shelter. While it is not a big deal that she observes this, it is a funny callback to All Stars when she would complain about the shelter and annoyed Mogo Mogo in the process.
This is rough. People are freaking out. I mean, there's a lot of complaining last night.
It's gonna get worse.
I know, and it's only day 4.
In what has to be the most obviously reenacted scene ever in the history of Survivor, Boston Rob passes out and Jerri finds him on the ground. If the bad acting doesn't give it away, then his shoes being placed perfectly next to him should. Anyways, while I'm sure he really does pass out and the cameras just didn't catch it, this is one of the most unintentional, hilarious scenes in all of Survivor.
Please, Rob, come on, just look at me. Your head hurts?
Yeah.
Dude, what do you want me to do? I saw the whole thing, and it really scared me. I mean, I don't want to see anybody get hurt.
I feel like he's getting the best of me.
Later on in the episode, it is immunity time, and once again the villains win, and back at camp, spirits are high. So high, in fact, that her and Boston Rob are now smoking and joking over some possibly inappropriate clam joke.
It's the elusive giant clam. Do you want to touch it?
I don't know, I'm afraid.
Come on, you can touch my clam.
Episode 3 kicks off with the others noticing just how tight-knit Jerri and Coach really are, along with Russell and Parvati. There's a lot of duos happening here. Boston Rob says it can be dangerous when a couple gets together. He would know. The villains then lose for the first time all season, and the game is on. Parvati is back to her flirtatious, charming self that we saw in Micronesia, and seems to be getting her way, just like in Micronesia, convincing people to do things for her that are not in their best self-interest, but are in her best self-interest. And Jerri sees all of this.
Parvati is like a virus. That girl needs to go. She's a way of just like roping people in, even when they don't want anything to do with her. I want to find out how to bottle that up and use it in my real life because it's pretty powerful stuff.
Parvati and Danielle want Randy gone since they think he is weak, and factually he is in the challenges. Jerri says everyone there has their own personal strengths and weaknesses. Parvati then asks Jerri, hey, name a name if you don't want Randy to go, huh? Name someone. And she says she doesn't even know what's going on right now, essentially resisting Parvati, who has backed her into a corner for the sake of just resisting her. While the will to fight is good, there's almost no reason to not agree to vote out Randy. We then get a hilarious back-to-back set of confessionals where Jerri tells us that straight up she wants to punch Parvati in the face. She just wants to knock her out.
I'm at the point right now where every time I'm around here, I just want to punch her in the face. That's all I can think about is just taking her down. But I'll tell you what.
Jerri's annoying. I mean, she is the fakest fakey McGee I've ever met. I know she's running around behind my back talking about me. She's just like a bitter old cougar, and I think her days are numbered too.
Despite this being all villainous from everyone involved, it is hilarious as Jerri used to be the flirty one on the show, but now Parvati has taken that crown and has been a lot more successful with it, to be fair. At Tribal Council, there are talks about the villain shelter, with the talks of it possibly being one of the worst ever, and Jerri then corrects them that, no, I think the underground shelter I lived in on All Stars is much, much worse.
In fact, why do you think we have the worst shelter in Survivor history?
It's not the worst shelter in Survivor history. I was in that one, actually.
Randy is then voted out unanimously.
Randy, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 4 is super quiet for Jerri as the villains win reward and immunity, and she receives no significant storytelling moments whatsoever. So we move on to episode 5, where the villains have a clue to the hidden immunity idol and everyone knows it. It gets read out loud and everyone hears it. It has been made public that anyone who goes and looks for this idol will be marked.
Because whoever gets it is marked. What do you mean marked? If you get it, we're gonna write your name down so that we force you to use it.
So, while the entire tribe, including Jerri, is doing Coach Chi together and building those important social bonds, Russell Hantz ignores them all and goes to look for the idol himself, by himself, marking himself, which is just good on Jerri to not be the person doing that. It is now time for the reward challenge, and it is Schmergen Brawl. You would think the issues this presented in Samoa would have had this challenge canceled, but nope, here we are. While playing Schmergen Brawl, Jerri takes a massive hit from Rupert and just brushes it off like a boss.
Like I meant to do that.
Whatever, dude, whatever.
Fine.
Jerri then goes on to nail the killer shot and win reward for the entire villains tribe. Part of that reward is being able to eat as much chocolate as humanly possible, and Jerri accomplishes that and feels quite sick, which is a funny contrast to her time in the Australian Outback when she equated chocolate to sex and just wanted to squirt it all over some hot dude's bod, meaning Colby at the time.
I have never eaten so much chocolate in one sitting in my entire life. Okay, I must agree, this is obscene. I'm like in a mix of chocolate euphoria and sickness.
The villains go on to win immunity, and in episode 6, both tribes have to go to tribal. The numbers and what should happen seem obvious. Russell, Parvati, and Danielle are the smaller 3-person alliance, whereas everyone else, including Jerri, are in the larger 6-person alliance. It's basic math. They all agree to split the vote in case an idol gets played, so it's a 3-3-3 vote.
I realized if Parvati can vote Russell. No, we need to split the vote. If we vote 3 and 3, and there's a tie, then there's a revote. You understand? We can't lose. You can't lose that way. This other way, it's too risky.
I think I'm gonna take the target off of my back.
Thank you.
This is indeed a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for Parvati will not count. First vote, Russell. Russell. 2 votes, Russell. Parvati does not count. Parvati does not count. Parvati does not count. Parvati does not count. Tyson. Tyson. 6th person voted out of Survivor, Heroes versus Villains. Tyson. Tyson, tribe spoken.
And in episode 7, Jerri talks to Russell, Parvati, and Danielle, who are working on roping her into their alliance. While talking to them, she is pondering the idea of joining them since she knows Boston Rob would never play an idol to save her like Russell just did for Parvati. While doing so, she mentions that she kind of has a fear of commitment, and maybe that's why she's single.
Maybe I have fears of commitment. Maybe that's why I've been single for 3 years.
We then learn that Jerri doesn't let things go very easily, and she still harbors resentment towards those who have hurt her in the past, which influences a lot of her decisions. And while opening up about this deep dark place inside of her, Parvati calls her crazy.
She's like, people have hurt my feelings in the past, and I've just not gotten over that for 38 years. Listen, crazy pants.
However, Parvati then offers her a Final Four deal with her, Danielle, and Russell. Russell then talks to Jerri and Coach separately and offers them a different Final 3 deal, which seems great, and obviously this is better than a Final 4 deal. However, this means absolutely nothing since Russell has been doing this to pretty much everyone in the game except for Boston Rob and Sandra.
You and Jerri, I want to take to the top 3. That's what I want. That's what, from the bottom of my heart, that's what I want.
Jerri seems to be swayed by the offer though and makes a plea to Coach to join her. She doesn't trust Boston Rob because he screwed her over in All-Stars, which is fair. Coach has been in love with Boston Rob all game and doesn't want to betray him, so she calls Coach naive and sees her path to the end being with Russell, not with Rob. She says Coach just wants to be the good guy, but you can't be the good guy all the time and win this game. You have to make those hard decisions.
I don't trust Rob. We have a history and we're old school players and all that nonsense. You know, I wanted to trust him because of that, but I realized Rob is not trustworthy. He's not. He proved it.
He proved it 6 years ago when he was playing a different game, and every time he said he's going to vote for somebody in this game so far, he's done it.
As much as I like Coach and as much as I trust him, I mean, I don't see someone who gets it, like in the grand scheme of this game.
The villains then lose the immunity challenge, and this is a huge turning point of the season, and it's all up to Jerri. She is caught between two warring factions, one led by Russell Hantz, who she just met and learned about on this season, and Boston Rob, who she has a long storied history with, which the last time they played together ended with him screwing her game over to help her former ally from the Australian Outback and now Boston Rob's wife win $1 million. It all comes to a head as Russell, Danielle, and Parvati agree to vote for Boston Rob, and Boston Rob then talks to Jerri and he susses out that he is being targeted and says she can trust him. You can always trust someone who has their back against the wall.
I mean, you know, I would love to just go, hey Rob, you know, I trust you 100%. I can't.
But you can trust me in this situation because you can always trust somebody when their backs are against the wall.
But this is not true at all, and Jerri should definitely know this out of all people, as the last time Boston Rob had his back up against the wall in Survivor, he made a deal with Lex to vote out Jerri and save Amber, aka screwing over Jerri, and if you know the story, screwing over Lex as well. Jerri is having a moral conundrum though and talks to Coach, who she tells that she doesn't feel like she's being a very good villain. But this is a big moment for her, as it was her who earlier said she wanted to deck Parvati in the face and then said Coach was naive for thinking he would never have to be the bad guy and still win. She now needs to be the bad guy though and turn on Boston Rob and fully embrace her villainous role to further her game. It comes down to this: tribal council. Will she pull off the flip and end Rob's game and align herself with people who actively make moves to help her get further, or will she stay with the devil she knows in Rob to vote out Russell instead? She knows she's caught in the middle and she isn't sure if this decision is the right one, but she believes it has to be.
I'm making a choice tonight in hopes that this will be right for me in the end.
First vote, Rob. Rob. 2 votes, Rob. Russell. Russell, we're tied. Rob, that's 3 votes, Rob. Tied again. 8th person voted out of Survivor, Heroes versus Villains. Rob, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 8 begins and we just saw Jerri make that big move. She needed to propel the second half of her game. It was risky, but time will tell if it was the right one. Coach then pontificates, as he is known to do, and labels Russell a bully and says Jerri made a mistake going with him. This is a load of garbage though, as Coach is truly to blame for Rob going home and probably feels bad because Rob called him a little man on his way out the door.
Little man.
However, Jerri says she feels bad and she misses Rob already, which shows how she still cares about him despite all that has taken place. It is now time for the reward challenge, and the villains assume this means merge based on how the note was worded, so they pack up their entire camp and bring it with them for Jeff to say,
Everybody, drop your expectations. We are not merging.
There is no merge, and even worse is that the villains lose the reward challenge and now have to reset up their entire camp, and they didn't even get any food in the process. Jerri is annoyed by all of this, namely losing the reward and voting out Boston Rob, which is dumb since she is responsible for that decision as well.
You know, voting off Rob was a big mistake. He would have made sure that Sandra and Courtney did not sit out today, that they played, and that we had strong people in the immunity challenge.
The villains lose immunity, and this time Jerri doesn't vote with her final four. Instead, her, Coach, and Russell all vote for Courtney since she is super weak and a liability at challenges, but instead, Coach is blindsided by everyone else in a 4-3 vote.
Coach, tribe has spoken. Time for the go.
Episode 9 starts with Jerri saying she feels completely blindsided and now her options are severely limited. She knows she has to take that final 4 deal with Parvati and ride it to the end.
I'm still going to stick true to the alliance that I created with Russell, Parvati, and Danielle. But at this point, that's all I got.
At the reward challenge, it is an interesting one as there are a lot of one-on-one matchups taking place, which coincidentally has Jerri facing off against her former nemesis, Colby, and she just lets him feel the rage she has pent up inside of her.
Hey, Colby.
A rematch. Jerri Manthey, Colby Donaldson going all the way back to season 2.
Obviously a joke, clearly things are better, but what a way to top it all off then with beating Colby and being a crucial reason why her tribe wins reward. However, the villains do lose immunity, and this one takes seeing it to believe it, but JT writes a letter to Russell Hantz and gifts him an idol since the heroes are under the false assumption that the women are running the game on the villains tribe and just picking the men off one by one.
Play the idol tonight and save yourself. All the girls should be writing your name down, so act like you know you're going home.
Let's do this together. See you soon. BFF forever. XOXO, JT.
Russell then tells Parvati, Danielle, and Jerri about JT's idol that he gifted to him, and it is good that he feels close enough to Jerri to let her in on the secret. At Tribal Council, Courtney is voted out 5-1.
Courtney, tribe has spoken.
Luck, bitches. See you later.
Time for the go.
It is day 25, aka episode 10, and it finally happens.
It's a map to the heroes' camp.
Get the hell out of here. Let me see.
That's right, 2/3 of the way into the game and they are merging, and it is all tied up, 5 heroes versus 5 villains. While everyone discusses what their new tribe name should be, Jerri says, why not the all villains? And Colby goes, really, Jerri? Showing a complete annoyance for her still.
Okay, we do what?
The all villains.
All villains?
We're all villains.
Really, Jerri?
We're all winners. We're all all-stars. We're all something good and positive. Why do you have to keep the villain attitude? But I guess that's what villains do.
It is still hilarious though that she can push his buttons like this all these seasons later. Anyways, we are then hearing and seeing everyone talk to each other except for Parvati, except this story isn't about Parvati. So what's important here to us is the little conversation we hear from Colby and Jerri about her building a wagon from scratch and him being very impressed.
You guys made a weld last year?
Really?
I make weld, yeah. I built a covered wagon from scratch.
Conestoga wagon, no way.
Yep.
Even though Jerri doesn't witness this or even know that it happens, it is super crucial to everything that is going to happen as Sandra goes and rats out the real villain alliance to the heroes, letting them know that no, Russell was never the next one to go. He's actually kind of running the show with Parvati, letting them know that things are different than what they thought.
Russell's the kingpin and Parvati's the second in command.
Armed with the knowledge that Sandra gave them, the heroes then decide to vote for Jerri because they don't think anyone will play the idol for her.
Jerri, we're voting for you tonight because if there is an immunity idol, you're the least likely person that they would give it to.
If she had been aligned with Boston Rob at this point, they would probably be right. However, Parvati plays her idol for Sandra and then plays JT's idol for Jerri in a very bold move, and this is why she chose to align with them, and it is paying off big time, literally saving her from being voted out of this game.
Jerri, that one's for you too.
Damn it. Thanks, Jerri. Sandra, these are both hidden immunity idols. Any votes cast for Sandra or Jerri will not count. Jerri does 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 not count. JT, 1 vote JT. JT, that's 2 votes JT. 11th person voted out and the 3rd member of our jury. JT. JT, tribe has spoken.
Episode 11 sees an immunity challenge where, wait for it, Jerri gets her first ever individual immunity win in the 3 seasons she has played, and boy is she excited about this.
Jerri wins immunity by seconds over Russell.
My very first immunity.
Ever?
Ever.
Congratulations.
I'm having an amazing day. This is the first time I've ever had immunity, so I'm just trying to appreciate and really live in the extreme high I'm experiencing right now, because it feels good. I'm swimming in yay.
At Tribal Council, Russell is complimenting everyone on the Villains tribe except Sandra and calls Jerri the calm one, which is the first time anyone has ever called her that in any season of the show. Amanda Kimmel is then voted out 6-3 due to Candace flipping and Sandra not flipping.
Amanda, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 12 begins and we find out that there will be 2 separate tribal councils contained within the one episode. Jerri observes that since Candace flipped a vote with the villains for Amanda, that she is someone who must be easy to flip, and that makes her a likely person to do it again, and this time not to Jerri's favor, so she needs to be voted out next. Later on, there are talks about splitting the votes to try and get Colby out, but Jerri would rather get Candace, and no one seems to argue against her point, which shows she's fairly respected in this group.
You'll never see it coming.
13th person voted out and the 5th member of our jury, Candace. Candace, the tribe has spoken.
Back at camp, Russell wants Danielle DiLorenzo gone next, mainly due to jealousy of how close Danielle has gotten to Parvati, who he kinda has a thing for. Anyways, he convinces the heroes to vote with him, which is easy. They'll vote for anyone who isn't themselves. However, that is only 2 people and he needs Jerri's vote to make this happen. Parvati and Danielle start scrambling and approach Jerri to not vote for Danielle, which she agrees to.
He's trying to vote me out. He's trying to vote her out tonight. It's Rupert. Danielle, I'm not changing my vote. I'm voting for Rupert. Rupert needs to go.
However, right before Tribal Council, Russell scares Jerri into flipping her vote by saying if Danielle doesn't go, then Jerri is next on the hit list. He isn't clear about whose hit list or what this even means or what this means for the long run or what exactly is happening. So basically, he's just throwing a lot of vague threats out there to scare Jerri into voting for Danielle, and it seems to work in his favor, even though it isn't true.
I want Danielle gone tonight.
We need to get rid of Rupert. It's too early.
Bad move. You're gonna be next. Not because of me.
Don't threaten me.
Not because of me. I'm trying to save you. You don't get rid of Danielle, you're gonna be after her.
Why?
It ain't me. It ain't me. I can't do nothing. You have to help me help you. I said, let me get us as far. I can't. Well, I'm telling you now. We have to get rid of Danielle tonight. They will get rid of you.
14th person voted out and the 6th member of our jury, Danielle. Danielle, Travis spoken.
Episode 13 starts and Parvati is predictably like, what the heck just happened, dude? And Jerri tells her what Russell did by threatening her and scaring her. Parvati immediately understands exactly what's happening, and since Russell's been using these tactics all game, she doesn't take it personally that Jerri did this, aka Parvati is now mad at Russell and not Jerri. The reward challenge for this episode brings with it the family visit, which makes Jerri super happy as she finally sees her sister who lives in Germany. Jerri then goes on to win the challenge and has to decide which 2 people get to enjoy the reward with her. She picks Parvati and Sandra, which are solid choices, but it angers Russell to no end as he paints her as very ungrateful.
I've been taking care of Jerri this entire time. She's not gonna take me. I hope that burger literally tastes like $1 million, because that was $1 million decision. These girls are a bunch of unappreciative little bitches.
On the reward with Parvati and Sandra, Jerri is worried that Russell might be mad at her for this decision, and they say, who cares? What is he gonna do? Tank his game and bring 2 heroes to the final 3 so he can lose to them? They say they got her back. Back at camp, Rupert, aka America's sweetheart who voted for him and gave him $1 million, is up doing loud work while everyone is trying to sleep. Jerri reverts to her classic form and paints Rupert as an inconsiderate, stupid jerk. Her words, not mine.
Rupert is loud, obnoxious, selfish, and totally inconsiderate. I don't know if it's like incredible cockiness or just complete stupidity. I'm leaning more towards stupidity. I want to kill Rupert right now. Honestly, I want him gone more than anything in the entire universe.
Jerri makes a concentrated effort to smooth things out with Russell, and she does just that with her smile and good attitude, and really it works like a charm on him. Maybe she does have the charm that Parvati has and doesn't fully realize it. At Tribal Council, Rupert is voted out 4-0 since Sandra played an idol on herself to negate the 2 votes she was going to receive.
Rupert, the tribe has spoken.
It is finale time. It's Jerri versus Russell versus Parvati versus Sandra versus Colby. Can she pull off the improbable win and beat her former nemesis while also conquering the game's biggest villains? The finale starts with Russell telling us that his final 3, his perfect final 3 that is with Sandra and Jerri because he thinks neither of them played the game and they're both just goats, which is great news for her. Jerri, Russell, and Colby want Parvati to go next, but she wins immunity, saving her for one more Tribal Council and marking Colby as the next to go.
Once again, Parvati escapes her elimination vote. I mean, it's unbelievable how this game works sometimes. It's not like it's the end of the world. We still have one more person that we can get rid of, that being Colby.
Back at camp, Colby gives a surrender speech where he says, hey, no sweat guys, I know I'm going next, so let's just chillax and enjoy the rest of the day without scrambling. He then hugs everyone, and right as he goes to hug Jerri, the show cuts it off despite showing him hug everyone else, but we can't see him hug Jerri, the person who he has 3 seasons of history with now.
I really needed that one. So we came back into camp, I gathered all the villains, and I gave them my...
At Tribal Council, Colby is then voted out 4-1, leaving Jerri only 1 tribal from reaching the end.
Colby, tribe has spoken.
Back at camp, Russell and Jerri talk one-on-one, and they both determine that they have to vote out Parvati, as she is a massive jury threat who has a lot of friends over there and she's made a lot of big moves, and she's won a lot of individual immunity. So we just need to stop her from winning individual immunity this one time, and guaranteed they can make the final 3.
We have to win, Russell.
We win.
We have to win.
Us winning is a shot for me and you to win $1 million.
Yep.
Russell starts bad-mouthing Parvati, and Jerri takes this opportunity to butter up Russell and say, you are so right, Russell. You ran the show and Parvati was following you the whole time. The final 4 then do a classic fallen comrades trek where they look at the torches of those who have been voted out of the game and reflect on them. Jerri pays a nice and fun homage to Coach.
Jerri's boyfriend.
He was my partner in crime there for a little while, and we had some really good talks. I can pay homage to you, Coach.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Then when they reach Colby, she has nothing but kind words to say about her former nemesis.
Colby, my favorite cowboy.
Oh, cowboy.
Colby. My Outback comrade.
At the immunity challenge, it is a tight one as it comes down to the wire between Parvati, Jerri, and Russell. However, Russell ultimately wins it by inches over Jerri, but Parvati doesn't get it, and that was the goal.
Russell hits the post. Oh, man. Russell wins immunity.
Back at camp, the game plan is still on as Russell tells Jerri that he is taking her to final 3 with Sandra. Great news.
Ready to go to the final 3?
Absolutely. Sure they could.
But then not moments later, he tells Parvati the exact same thing about him taking Parvati and Sandra. It seems like Sandra's the only one who's definitely going at this point, which is very confusing as to why he would do this, but also to figure out who he is being truthful to as he later switches back to Jerri and Sandra.
Best option for me is to take Jerri and Sandra. And that would be the best strategic move for me.
Your best strategic move?
Would be Jerri and Sandra.
It is a mess trying to figure out where his head is at right now. Something key is revealed in all these talks of who Russell should take to the end, as he tells us that he thinks if Jerri's on the jury, then she will undoubtedly vote for him. And he thinks that if he votes up Parvati, he doesn't think he's going to get a vote, or if he does, it's very unlikely. At Tribal Council, Jerri makes her case that Parvati is a major threat. If she goes to the end, she is going to get votes. She's been kicking butt and has a lot of friends over there.
Parvati's a huge threat. You know, that's the scary thing, so that's kind of the case I push.
Why is Parvati a huge threat?
Because she's been kicking butt. And she's got a lot of friends over there. And it's, you know, it's no secret. Right now, that is a threat.
However, the allure of possibly getting Jerri's guaranteed vote is too much, as she is voted out 3-1.
Jerri, tribe spoken.
Bye, guys.
As a side note, Jerri's exit confessional has her saying she will vote for Russell, but he blows Final Tribal so hard that she flips her vote to Parvati instead. Holy crap, Jerri came so close. I feel as if she reaches the end with any combination of Russell, Parvati, and Sandra that she has a really good chance, especially with the hindsight of seeing how the jurors treat the final 3 this season and knowing that Jerri did nothing to make them mad. How Jerri evolved from the point where it was clear that no matter what, she was not winning over the jury her first season to here where it was like, yeah, Jerri's gonna win this thing is quite crazy. Jerri is awesome and she had a transformation in Survivor. So what do you think about Jerri Manthey? Should she get one more shot to play? Comment below and let me know. Thank you for watching and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.